My name's John Bartolomeo. Everybody calls me Johnny Bart. This is my YouTube channel. Hang out, get educated about prison without going to prison. I get a lot of comments. I'm going to address a couple things today. You know, you guys dictate really the content of this channel. So the first thing is the comments. I've been getting a lot of comments about, big deal. You didn't tell on your friends. So why is that a big deal? And listen, I agree with that philosophy 10,000%. What would you say? Oh, I could have told on you? That's like the scummiest thing in the whole world, right? If you're in the lifestyle and you engage in certain conduct with people in a certain level of society, I mean, the obligation is to always keep your mouth shut, right? That's the way I was brought up. That's the way I thought all the time. And so I would never say that just because I didn't tell on my friends I'm a good guy. People used to come up to me in jail and be like, yo, the guy's not a Skinner. He's not a rat. Like, he's not a rapist or a rat. Like, those are the two things. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, it's a good starting point for somebody. But what does that make him? That just makes him like a normal person, right? I mean, we'll associate with the other people. So, no, well, because that seems now to be a huge thing. Is like, oh, he's not a rat and he's not a pedophile or a Skinner. Okay. So in my case, I never said that, oh, I could have told on my friends and I didn't. I mean, that's like an absurd thing to even say. The thing about my case is I have memorandums from the United States government, from the United States attorney, saying that if I took a 35-year plea deal, they laid out the people that wouldn't get in trouble. They laid out another list of people who wouldn't have to come back and testify at the grand jury. And if they didn't testify, their time would stop for the life of the grand jury. So there was a lot of people's lives hanging in the balance, not because, I could have told on them. No, that was never even the question. If I was going to tell on them or not, I mean, no. The question was, were these people going to get reindicted if I wanted to go to trial? And of course, I had people, I love the guys in the club. They came right to me. Look, we'll get you a lawyer. We'll do whatever we have to do to get you taken care of. And I remember, shout out to Lee Barrett. I love Lee. And he come up and I was just as if I was having a cup of coffee and really not talking about anything. I was like, no, I'm just going to take the plea deal because it's going to save everybody else. I just thought it was the right thing to do. I didn't really think much of it. I just thought that, I know at this point in time, the feds were going crazy. It was insanity. And they had given me this memorandum in the United States attorney saying all of this would stop if I agreed to take a 35-year deal. So I took the 35-year deal. I went and did it. The most difficult times, I just, I stayed pat. I got comfortable in a very uncomfortable situation. And I think that's the power that I've had throughout this, and that's going to bring us to the next part of this segment, because this is just a preface to this next episode, is I just got comfortable in a very uncomfortable situation. So it's not that I didn't tell him, I could have told on you. You never hold that up to anybody. I mean, is that even a thing? People, I don't know, not me and my people, not me and my friends. I took a deal so nobody would have to come back to the grand jury. And so nobody else that wasn't indicted didn't have to get indicted. I just thought it was a common sense thing to do. And I made the decision, pretty easily. So that's the difference. So I don't pat myself on the back because I didn't tell on my friends. It's never an option. I would never tell on my friends. I don't do that. And, I just wanted to clarify that. And then, to bring us into the second part of this episode and what I wanted to talk about today, I have a lot of comments and a lot of people asking the question, you think I could make it in prison? I think that's a common question, and I think a lot of people have that question, and I really think that it's people from another segment of society that have this question. I don't think these are just everyday people that are maybe fascinated by prison genre, prison podcasts, the prison culture, prison being so much out in the open today and, much less obscure, it's right there. It's right in the public view. And I just think these are a lot of people that maybe 9-to-5 business people, I don't know a better way to describe it in today's world, people that would never ever find themselves in prison. But, you never know because people have found themselves in prison who thought they'd never go to prison. And they say, could I make it in prison? So I think the biggest misconception about like going to prison, and I made the same mistake myself because I always thought to myself, as soon as I get in there, I'll make a statement. I just think that it's so misguided. Now, of course, after having 27 years experience in federal prison, I know this not to be true now, and it's not a good lead, right? And I think a lot of philosophy in prison translates to the street and translates to life. And if I can put it any more clearer, I think an antisocial lifestyle and those type of values still translate, right, to a pro-social lifestyle and pro-social values. And I mean, if it's unclear to you what I mean by that, of course, we know ways to succeed, whether you're living an antisocial life or a pro-social life, right? So I just think, this whole, I'm going to go beat the biggest guy up I see in prison. It's so misguided, right? And I've never really seen that happen. I've seen people walk in, with a chip on their shoulder, like, hey, nobody's going to bother me. Nobody's going to take advantage of me. But what I will say to that is the most successful people in prison, meaning staying out of trouble, were always really low-key guys that just skirted around, never got into trouble, never stuck their nose in anything. They always say the 3 things that get you in prison is gambling, debts, and homosexuals. That was always the 3 things that got you in trouble in prison, So I don't, I gambled a little bit. That was about the only thing out of the 3 that I did. But I was never really a big gambler. And people get in debt in prison. I've seen it happen. And I seen why those really 2 things, gambling and debt, because I wasn't really anywhere near a group of people that were into homosexuals. It was around, of course, you've seen it, but I was just never ran in those crowds. So I never really seen how those people got in trouble, but I did see, things happen as a result of that because it's right there in a closed environment, closed community. So you see what happens. But to me, the most successful people, shout out to Aaron Nill. Okay, he was my boy, Aaron. He was from Maryland. And listen, this kid used to walk around with his headphones on all the time. And he was a good kid. He wasn't like a recluse, like when he didn't talk to nobody. He was a great kid, and he did time perfectly. He used to walk around with his headphones, I remember. And I was like, yo, let me see them headphones, man. He goes, nah. He goes, because I used to say, listen, there ain't no batteries in them headphones. You just walk around so you ain't going to talk to nobody with them. And he was like, yeah, you're right. He goes, I wear them a lot, so I just don't have to get involved. But he was a great kid. He was a solid kid. He was a great athlete. And he always said hi, goodbye, what's up? Was dynamite, but he just kept it moving, bro. And like the people that I know that have been the most successful just always did that. Hi, goodbye, said hi to everybody, did the right thing, never did anything out of line, and just kept moving all the time, walking laps. Hey, what's up? How's everything? But never got into the bullshit, never got into any of the, disagreements with other groups, disagreements in between people, in the clique. These are people that just never got involved, and they were the most successful. So, like I say, I think it translates in the street, and the street actually translates to prison as well, because, even living my life, like I don't want to get involved in any of the controversies, right? And I think that's a result of maturity for me. So, I just try to keep it moving, and I'll be like, yeah, and I hit one person's side of the story, another person's side. But I try not to, unless somebody's near and dear to me, of course, will I really take a side. I'll just kind of hear people out. And my friend, he was an Albanian kid, Beckham Fasheko. A shout out to Beck. I know Beck's the best. But he used to do the same thing. He would just be like, yeah, I hear you, yeah, 100%. But he would say that to everybody. And he was just, agreeable, amiable, because the bottom line is everybody has their own problems in prison. They got a million things going on in their own lives, and that's what happens. Some people get so enmeshed in these controversies that it becomes their every second of life because they don't really have a life. You don't really have a life in prison. So prison becomes your life. But, going in and like, oh, can I make it in prison? I'll go in there, stab the first guy. I mean, it's kind of a dramatic, mode of thinking and kind of a dramatic move to make, to go in there and punch the biggest guy in the face. Biggest guy in the face might not be a troublemaker at all. It's usually, somebody that's not the biggest guy. It's usually, not the big, quiet, gentle type, that are just always there hanging out, but people perceive them as that. Like, so I never knew how that got to be a thing. I'm going to go beat up the biggest guy I see. So I think there are ways to maneuver. And I mean, I did my bid the way I did it, but I was involved in controversies. I was, loyal to my friends to a fault sometimes. And whatever their problems were, they became my problems, because the way I looked at it was, if I walked around the yard with you every day and in good times, we had a good time, we hung out. And then if you had a problem, I'm saying, I can't not be with you that day. I have to be with you that day too, But the way these successful people were that, just kind of skirted everything was they didn't get too close to people. They were always hi and goodbye. How's everything? Their paperwork was good. They were good. People from their neighborhood knew them, but they never really got involved, like enmeshed with people. I did, because, I just think that's the only way I knew how to move in prison. You have your few friends in there, and, they always say, like, ride or die with them, and was that a mistake? I don't think so. I don't think anything I've done in my life was a mistake, insofar as, I just keep moving forward. I wouldn't be the person I was if I didn't go through what I went through, right? So setbacks to comebacks, that's what we're talking about, especially, in this forum. So could you make it in prison? I think the more low-key you are, the more cordial you are to people. And do people take kindness for weakness? I think that's, of course, is a thing, right? We see it every day. But developments of relationships, I think, kind of engineer that kindness for weakness. So if you're not too close to people, like in the prison environment, right? These are guys I was never going to see again. But, actually, to say the other side of the coin is I still have contact with a lot of those guys. And, somebody put it to me the other day when I was having a conversation about a certain subject, and we were going back and forth maybe a little bit about an issue. And I was like, hey, and I talked about prison. He was like, hey, you know what? I can tell you this. I've never heard anybody say a bad word about you in prison. And at that moment, it struck me that, so what I did do in prison had a good result. At least that. Did I get too involved with people? I don't know if you could ever be too loyal as a friend, but, and we got, people like Joey O'Kane that have died. We got people like Kevin McTaggart that are still in prison. And, just guys that I remember that left an impact on me, that I don't know if if you moved like other people move and they're just on the perimeter moving around. I don't know if you can develop those type of bonds with people. I'm not sure, and I can't speak for them. I can only speak for myself. But I developed a lot of really close, deep bonds with people that I still have today. And, some people, of course, have passed away. And that's just a result of, going to these places and being in these places. Sometimes you don't make it out of these places. But do I think that, individually you could make it in prison? I think anybody could make it in prison. And I think that the trick is, and the key to success is you don't want to run in with knives taped to your wrist. I'm saying there's no future in that. You're going to the box. You're going to a high security. You're going to be labeled. They're going to probably give you a psychology number. I'm saying you go there. If you're a good guy, you make connections with people. Hey, what's up? How you doing? You get to know people, and you just keep moving. The quietest people, man, quiet. I've often regretted my words, but never my silence. It just rings true in so many environments. So I think, now, if I had to do it all over again, I would probably do it the exact same way I did it, because I just think that, I got a lot of desired results from it. The results that I wanted. I made a lot of great connections and, left impact on people. People left an impact on me. But I just think there's something to be said for just putting your head down, man. Nobody's going to disrespect you in prison. It's just the street translates. Can somebody disrespect you on a whim, on a Hummer? Yes. Yeah, definitely. It happens. But people recognize, who's who. I always say, people tell me about Colombia, you're going to get robbed. These are people, they got the cameras, they're just oblivious to their surroundings. I think you can spot a mark a mile away. Do you know the rules of human interaction? Do you know the rules of mechanics of being a human being? Don't look like a mark, right? I don't know. That seems easy for me. Is it difficult for other people? I don't know. But at least not be a mark. I'm not saying I'm the toughest guy in the world. I'm going to win every fight, but don't look like a mark. If you don't look like a mark in prison, you're not going to be one. And so I just think that there's a lot of ways to skin a cow, right? So a lot of ways to do something. My way is not the right way, but to answer the question, can you make it in prison? Definitely. And I think the lower key you are, the better chance you'll have. And it depends what security level you go to. Obviously, if you're going to a camp, and we have the reverse in these places. We have the loudest guys, toughest guys saying, the loudest guy in the room is usually not the toughest guy in the room. It's usually the guy that got the least attention when he was growing up. But I'm saying that's a whole nother story for another day. We have the reverse of that as well. But I think anybody could make it in prison, and I think it's kind of gotten softened a little bit. You can't even have your paperwork no more. It's a shot. Anybody can be who they want to be in prison. It's just, I went to prison with the misconception that, oh my God, this is going to be like the ultimate of the ultimate with gangsters and, killers. And it really wasn't. It really wasn't. It's just, from day one, I just knew it wasn't the place to be. And, but like I said, the key to my success was I got comfortable and I made myself comfortable in a very uncomfortable environment. And I think that translates to life as well. When you're sitting in the shit, get comfortable. Get through it. Get comfortable. Don't, get your heart rate going, your anger. Just get comfortable. Just get comfortable and go through it, because you know what? There's a lot of bad times you're going to have to get through in your life, and there's also a lot of good times that are going to fly by. So get comfortable. Get comfortable in comfortable situations and get comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And that's what I got for you today. Next week, we're back. I got an interview with Ian Bick. I'm interviewing Ian Bick, too, so that's probably going to drop after this one. I think I'm going to do this one first. But I had a great interview with Ian Bick. He was on Mr. Beast. We had a great time. Subscribe to this channel. Share this channel. Get your friends to subscribe to it. And buy some merch. Have a good day.